We started our schools in Chicago. It's because we wanted to take these children at 2.5 years old and teach them to love themselves.
Right.
And teaching them to love themselves will layer that love with knowledge about themselves. So from preschool all the way up through our high school. All right. But what it requires, one, are men and women who are dedicated to that message.
Okay.
Which means you have to be responsible yourself.
Right.
My wife and I courted my wife for 6 years. I was on the faculty at Howard University, and she was back in Chicago helping to build our institutions. I'm traveling back every 4 weeks. And so it's very clear to me that I'm not going to find a woman like this ever again. And so from 1969 to 2011, we've been together, raised 3 children. We're all doing well and so forth. So my point is, a part of responsibility is not only understanding the definition of responsibility, but being responsible yourself. Mm-hmm. You see? And therefore, with every action, there's a reaction. Okay? And the reaction, if you're responsible, will mean that your children will be responsible also, because you become the best example for them. So I could not be here talking about family or even education because I'm not a liar, all right, if I'm not going to try to do what I say myself. All these definitions are self-imposed. They're imposed from the outside of the culture rather than inside of the culture. All right. Even when you begin to look at definitions of manhood from Africa, they're not necessarily correct and right for the century that we live in. You see, each decade, Frantz Fanon talked about this in Wretched Earth, that each decade is going to redefine itself. You see, so we're in the 21st century. So what was right and what was necessary for the 19th century or the 20th century is not necessarily right in just today. And that's why you have to have men and women in conscience who are constantly learning, and bringing in new information all the time in order to update their information bank. Mm-hmm. All right? But the best example, which again we go back, which say, my wife and I, we courted for 6 years. And so even as a young man, I didn't believe in one-night stands. All right? And so we courted for 6 years, so therefore we married after the 6 years, and we've been married ever since. So that means that she knew everything about me, I knew everything about her, and all my mistakes, all of her mistakes, all the good points, all the negative points. We knew that by the time we got married. Mm-hmm. Right? And so therefore examples need to exist. So therefore, I'm not only a biological father, in terms of our own children being, I'm a cultural father. So therefore I have these cultural sons and cultural daughters all over the country. Mm-hmm. All right? And so therefore, those of us who have been privileged to have learned early that there's certain avenues and paths that you take, and along these paths you will meet men and women who essentially will encourage you and not encourage you. So I have 7 mentors. One just passed, Margaret Burroughs. Margaret Burroughs mentored me. Charlie Burroughs, her husband. Dudley Randall, publisher of Broadside Press and poet, mentored me. Paul W. Fuller, who was the head of the Negro Digest Black World magazine managing editor. Barbara Ann Sizemore, one of the key educators in this country, mentored me. And of course, my cultural mother was Gwendolyn Brooks. Mm-hmm. Now, without those persons in my life, I might not be the man I am today. And my wife can name 6 or 7 persons herself. So what you and I have to become are cultural fathers. You see, generally to persons we may not even know. And when I say a cultural father or a cultural mother, this goes beyond mentoring. Because as a cultural mother or cultural father, you're going to bring that child into your home. He or she may be there 2 or 3 nights a week, or what the case may be, depending upon his or her circumstances. Right? That's what we do. And that's how we begin to move to retransform this community.